let's move on to some other exciting stuff that happened this past week. We got some fight announcements, right? UFC 308 is sick. UFC ain't playing around on October 26th in Abu Dhabi. Kind of reminds me of the old days where they would not announce a card 2 to 3 months in advance. We would look forward to the card, and then we'd enjoy the fuck out of that card. Invite people over, pizza, beer, that whole thing, man. I really, really loved that announcement they made. But before we unpack this crazy lineup of fights, word to the UFC, you might want to look at UFC 307, all right? Because UFC 308 is money. But yeah, 307 still needs a little bit of help. Here's what 308 looks like, guys. Ilia Topuria will defend his UFC featherweight title against Max Holloway. I don't know if the BMF fight's on the line or not. Maybe the guys will tell me. Robert Whittaker versus Khamzat Chimaev. Magomed Ankalaev against Alexander Rakic. And then we have, RDA versus Jeff Neal. This the whole other list of matches. Ige versus Nerone Murphy. It is insane. I know I'm leaving another big one out, but guys, what was your reaction to these fights? Topuria, we know that probably wasn't the first option. It probably was Makhachev, but I think there was an injury there with the hand. Mike Bond, your thoughts on this card?
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, Ilia Topuria and Max Holloway, probably now my most anticipated fight of the year. Dricus and Adesanya coming up at 305 is a big one too. But this one, I mean, how could you not want to see this after what Max Holloway did in the last fight, after what Ilia did in the last fight? We've been waiting for this fight, so I'm absolutely excited. See if Max Holloway can reclaim that belt, which, you know, over 4 years after he lost it, people thought probably wasn't going to happen for him. And then this goes to show how quickly things can change in the sport, right? Like, he was locked out when Volk was the champ, and now he's got the chance to win that back. And I think in a matchup that is pretty good for him as well. Obviously, Ilia Topuria is ridiculously confident right now, and it's going to be really interesting to see how this one plays out. I could not be more excited. I think the other one that you were forgetting, George, was Cyril Gane and Volkov.
Oh, yeah. Danny, did they make a mistake by not going back to Volkanovski and getting an instant rematch? He defended 5 times, just like Israel Adesanya and Kamaru Usman, yet they got instant rematches. This guy didn't. And I know he had 2 vicious KOs back to back, but the last one was in February, and we said, hey, rest, maybe at the end of the year. Well, this kind of is the end of the year.
Yeah.
But I agree. Holloway's a hot hand pointing down that BMF title. I get it. So how about you, man? What did you think of this announcement?
I think if they would have gone with the Volkanovski immediate rematch, I wouldn't have hated it. I think Volk certainly is deserving at 145, but like his 2 losses at 155 still hurt him. And look, he got a pass, right, to go for 2 titles twice, and he failed. And then he got viciously knocked out by Ilia Topuria. So that kind of, I feel like, eliminates a little bit that immediate rematch, especially when you got other contenders, right? Like, not that I'm dying to watch Evloev fight Topuria, but certainly a deserving guy. You know, Brian Ortega's back, Diego Lopez doing his thing, Max Holloway the most deserving, the most interesting right now with the whole pointing down UFC 300. Look, I don't hate that Volk got skipped over, and look, it's good that Volk is probably taking an extended break. Keep it that way. Have him take the winner of this fight. That'd be fine with me. But no, this was the fight. If we're talking about like the biggest possible fight, the most exciting possible you can make right now with Ilia Topuria and with Max Holloway, it's this right here. I'm super hyped, and I can't wait to watch it.
Joseph Boza said Volk needs a break. Chris Goes Wild says, nah, Volkanovski needs a break. Brian John says, let Volk rest some more. All right, shit. I'll back off on that one. Goes Ankalaev against Rakic. Who does that leave for Alex Fajeda? I don't know, because I thought it should have been Ankalaev versus Alex Fajeda, but he's fighting Alexander Rakic.
Yeah, this one kind of baffled me a little bit, because I don't know what you do now at that point. Like, what is it that you're going to do with Alex? Is he going to sit around? I mean, he doesn't seem like the type of guy that would ask for time off. We've never really seen that in his forte. So for Ankalaev, like, I just don't understand. When you sit down, you talk to the UFC, you show them what you've been able to do. What do they tell you that you haven't done yet? To me, he was the right guy to make that fight. But yeah, it's a little head scratching there.
Could it be what I was mentioning earlier?
Man, you got that tinfoil hat on, huh?
Mokaev. You know what I'm saying?
That draw against Jan Blachowicz definitely didn't help him, and he's still living some of the consequences of that.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good point, Danny, but let me push back with this. Then who? And I know this is more about 308, but I want to talk about this. Then who for Fajeda? Because Blachowicz is coming off a loss to Hill, I think, or right, and then the draw. As much as I love that Polish dude, and he's fun, I get it, former champ, but maybe Pereira is going to take some time off, and I don't want to put that tinfoil hat on. I'm not a tinfoil hat guy on again, but geez, I hope Alex isn't going to heavyweight. But just like that's how baffling this announcement was to me. Nikita Krylov, he's won 3 in a row. I mean, is that a stretch?
Yeah, no, I
got a
think it had
shot.
to be. I think it had to be Ankalaev, but it does make me wonder. Maybe they I don't know. I don't know. Again, I don't want to be all conspiracy theorist, but maybe they're waiting for something to happen. They just want to keep Pereira on standby because the heavyweight division is very volatile right now. Who the hell knows if Stipe Miocic is going to make it to that John Jones fight and vice versa, right? If you need all of a sudden a heavyweight fight, you can do Aspinall on Pereira, and I think a lot of people will be hyped to buy that pay-per-view if they decide to cancel Stipe Miocic and John Jones once again, because it seems that John Jones is just set on fighting Miocic no matter what. And again, if Miocic doesn't make it, John Jones versus Pereira, I'm so sorry, Aspinall, like that'd be an amazing fight as well. Dying to see it. He deserves it 1,000,000% over Alex Pereira, but you put John Jones and Alex Pereira together, dude, people are going to be just take my money on that pay-per-view. So maybe they just want to have him on standby to see how things play out from here to November.
Yeah. I think there's a wild card there too, with depending what happens with Israel Adesanya against Duplessis in a few weeks. That's something that could be in play too.
Explain. What do you mean? He could go up?
Win. You do the fight with Pereira again.
Oh, light heavyweight. Oh, he has been bulking up too. Didn't they say that? He's been bulking up.
Apparently, yeah. So who knows? That's always something they could pull out of the back pocket, but it definitely is a weird choice, especially with Pereira saying that he wants to fight in December, but maybe it is a little bit of a longer break because it seems like things are shaping up. Who knows if Connor's going to fight, but I think the hope is that him and Chandler fight in December, and they're not going to put Pereira on the same card as Connor. He's going to be alone. There won't be any title fights, I don't think. So
here's one thing I can guarantee you guys. If John Jones walked into a closet against Aspinall, Pereira, and Izzy, John Jones is walking out. Just so you guys know that. Toughest human ever.
I'm not there with that. Move on.
Khamzat and Whittaker. Do we care anymore? Just because Khamzat just kind of disappoints us so much. I mean, it is a nice matchup. It's kind of they're trying to run this thing, right?
He needs to go up for this one. If he doesn't, we got a serious problem here.
Yeah. I love the matchup. We hope it happens. How about Harrison versus Vieira? Speaking of UFC 307, that's the one in Salt Lake City earlier in October. That one's a nice matchup for Harrison. So we pretty much know now it will be Raquel Pennington versus Juliana Pena. I guess they haven't officially announced that, but Vieira has been at the top, near the top of 135 pounds. Do you guys like this fight booking for Kayla Harrison goes? Is it the right step, or would you have already promoted her to a title shot?
The thing, Kayla just has that it factor. I think people are going to tune in no matter what. She looked fantastic in that last fight, and I get it. It's an aging Holly Holm, but she dominated her. And, if Kayla continues to keep getting better and with her timing, I think this move to the UFC, we're all going to look back and say, look, this was the right time. She's making the proper improvements to get up at that top echelon. I actually think one more fight like this will do her well. And I think it'll work out for her in the end.
Mm-hmm. Jose Aldo. He wasn't kidding around. I guess he has re-signed and he's back with the UFC. He's fighting Mario Batista. You like this one, Danny?
No, not really.
Really?
Look, I like Mario Bautista as a prospect. I think the dude definitely deserves a big fight, but not Jose Aldo. I think the way Jose Aldo looked against Martinez, I think you should do sort of like a Legends tour, right? Like just have him say goodbye to the sport in a good way. Have him in some exciting fights against some older known names, and just have some fun fights with him. It just seems kind of yet again like they're throwing him to the wolves to hope to build another contender off his name, and I don't like to see that, especially with Jose Aldo. Right? There's some fighters that you get why the UFC is doing it, but this guy's one of the all-time greats. This guy's special. I wish the UFC would kind of do him right and have better matchups. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, for his first fight back, they try to make the Dominic Cruz one, but for whatever reason, I think timing wise, it didn't work out. Now that you got all the time in the world, like why wouldn't you make that fight, right? It seems that Dom was in. He just didn't want to rush and fight in Brazil at that time. So That's the type of fights I want to see him in. Put him against the Garbrandt. Put him against
Cejudo?
Sure, yeah. Put him against Cejudo. Put him against, as I just mentioned, Dominic Cruz. I mean, there are so many fun fights for him, more than Mario Batista. And I love Mario Batista. Again, all props to him and what he's doing. But I don't know. This fight just doesn't make much sense to me.
I was excited about the matchup until you poo-pooed on it, but I actually agree with you, Danny. I think you're right. They have enough legends in that division where they maybe could have done something in that regard. All right, Mike Bond, your thoughts on these matchups at 307, and maybe you would know, is the main event going to be Pena and Pennington? And if it is, it needs more backup, that card, right? When we pair it next to 308, 307's lacking, brother.
Yeah, I'm not trying to ruin anyone's Monday, but that seems like it's probably going to be the main event of 307. It was going to be Max and Ilia before Islam's injury came up, and they kind of had to reshuffle the deck there. So, I mean, I don't feel too bad for Salt Lake City. They've got some pretty banger cards over the past couple of years. They're going to try to do everything they can, but this unfortunately just seems like that one on the schedule where you're going to get, you know, the weird, not so amazing title fight main event, you know, kind of like what we got in January with Pantoja and Usyk. Last summer, we had, you know, Amanda Nunes and Irina Aldana. So sometimes this is just the way the UFC schedule breaks. You know, it's unfortunate, I guess, for the people being asked to charge $80 or spend those insane ticket prices to go to a live event now, but it is what it is in that regard. These matchups are fine. I think Kayla Harrison, this is the appropriate step. Give her one more before the title shot. See if she can make weight again. I think she admitted to us at the Hall of Fame red carpet she got up to like 170 in between these fights because she had the hand injury. So maybe make sure she can hit, you know, 136, 135 again, coming off something like that. Aldo, kind of agree with the guys here. Not excited. It just feels like what we just saw with Jonathan Martinez, right? Like it's basically the same fight. The streaking guy who's not a big talker, doesn't really have that signature win. And can he fend him off, or can he do that? Aldo, I guess, you know, showing true to his legend status, though, he doesn't turn down fights. He'll take on anyone. I'm sure they're paying him, you know, a pretty penny to come back and do a new contract. And I'm sure the deal with that is you got to fight whoever we want you to. So this is who they chose. I would have liked to see something different, but maybe if he wins this one, that's where we go after this. But bantamweight is insane. And I don't know, with a guy like Umar Figueiredo, seeing all these, I don't know if I like all those chances of getting to the title. So you kind of wonder where you got to matchmake him. Go ahead, Danny.
Danny, I'll go to you in a second. Let me just say this real quick. Scott Christian says, I don't mind Pena and Pennington. It seems like it should be good. And yeah, Pena is going to bring the trash talk, but is it worth 80? Probably not. And then one other one, Ronald E. Smith says 307 is going to get ripped by the haters, or Ronald E. Smith, you could just say by fans, man, fans and media who are looking at the card fairly. It doesn't make us a hater. It's just not a solid card just yet. And Danny, this is why I wanted to go back to you, because Dixon, I know he wants me to say something else. He says, Danny, do you really not get why? It's a business, bro. Get all your money's worth out of Aldo. He already had his goodbye in Brazil and Martinez. I don't know if you were going to address that one, but maybe address that one and whatever else you were going to say.
I disagree. I mean, the UFC sells the 3 letters, UFC. I don't think they're trying to build Mario Batista so he could be the next pay-per-view king, and that's what they're going to base their business on. Like, no, dude. Like, I think this is very different. I think if it were boxing, okay, maybe these type of suggestions work, but this is the UFC product, right? I would say this is a freebie for the matchmakers. Jose Aldo versus Kaya Sakura. Make him debut against them. That'd be fun as shit. And look, again, putting my tinfoil hat on, I just thought about this. Mario Batista trains with Sean O'Malley, right? They're
and Kyler Phillips.
Maybe there's something there. Like, yo, he beat your boy. I don't know, title shot. No, am I overthinking?
Wait, what is it again? Say that again.
Aldo's fighting Mario Batista, who trains with Sean O'Malley, and they're friends. I suppose they're cool.
Yeah,
they're teammates.
Oh, so Aldo beats him. I stand up for the gym. I got you.
I don't know. Maybe not.
Yeah, that one might be a stretch, pal. I don't know about that one. But here's a good one. Joseph Boza says, do they think Sean Strickland's the backup fighter for 305? I haven't heard that, and Sean has been pretty adamant that that's not going to happen. But because Whittaker was booked against Khamzat, who is the backup fighter at 305? Anyone know, or are we just winging it with the 2 Africans?
Probably just winging it. I don't know if Sean Strickland's flying 30 hours just to cut some weight and probably not fight. doesn't really seem like his sort of thing. So yeah, I don't know. I haven't heard anything. This seems like the situation like Jared Cannonier or something would show up randomly out like the day before the fight, but who knows? I have no clue what it's going to be. Maybe they just let it ride and hope for the best here.
Do you know how much these guys are getting paid for cutting weight?
What's that?
Have we ever found out how much any of these guys are getting paid for being back?
They get their show money.
Negotiation, but I've heard like 100K.
Yeah. And then if they fight, it graduates to whatever their contract would be.
Which
and all
no
that.
one has. So